Right, I need a few bits and pieces, electronic bits and pieces, so I'm going to disassemble this AIWA music center, I suppose you could call it. Looking at it, it's got a CD player, yeah, that's disc changer there, so that's CD player, tape, gosh, oh yeah, 2 tape decks, so I should be able to get some motors out of that hopefully. Got a dial on the front, that might have a resistor on the back of it if I'm lucky. Other than that, it's probably just a great big box with not very much in it. So it's a 3 CD jobby. Got plenty of screws on the back, so we'll start unscrewing it in a second. I'll put my camera on a stand and start taking it apart. Okay, I want to make this fairly snappy because the light will fail soon. I'm doing this out in the conservatory. Right, crosshead screwdrivers, or crosshead screws. I suspect I could have used a power drill, make it just that little bit quicker. Reading the back here, AIWA model CX ZR220K compact disc stereo cassette receiver. My usual approach is just undo every screw that you can see. I'm only taking this apart to harvest parts out of it. I'm not attempting to repair it or anything like that. So I should probably cut a few wires rather than try to remove them, desolder them or anything like that. In fact, a good wire to cut there would be that one. That's looking promising already. Plastic. Oh yeah, another bit of plastic. Rather, as I suspected, a big empty box. A bit like a PC, really. A motherboard of some sort there. That board in there. That's all the buttons and that on the front. Power supply transformer. Motor there, that's driving the cassettes. And I guess, yeah, we've got another motor up there for the CD player. And that looks like that wants to come out quite easily with a bit of luck. That's exciting, even got a couple of LEDs there. I'm sure you can never have too many LEDs when you want to do little projects. Oh yeah. What's holding that in place? Not a lot. Looks like that was holding it in place. Push fit on those clips. Is that going to be? Yes, lovely. It's nice when they're not soldered together so you can get them apart easily. Right, I can see that looks like a motor there, a motor there, and another motor there. And that looks like that's going to pop off. I can find the right bits. Great. So we got Oh, why don't you want to come off? Give it a little bit of help. Yeah, you're going to come off, aren't you? Doesn't want to come off because it's actually, looks like they're actually crimped in place in that case. I got them off. Okay. Got the circuit board there. Anything useful? Well, plenty of diodes. Do you know what those are? Oh, little push switches. Little push switches are always handy. I haven't got my glasses on, so I can't read what they are. Might be transistors, might be something else. But a few salvageable bits there. As I say, some motors there, they're definitely salvageable. Another motor, that one. Oh, lovely. I won't know whether they're stepper motors or ordinary DC or AC motors, so I'll actually try and put some voltage on them. Although looking at them, they've only got 2 terminals for input. I shan't disassemble that any further at the moment. But yeah, that looks like that's just 2 terminals there and 2 terminals there. So they might just be simple DC motors with a bit of luck. Got a few gear wheels there that might be useful for something. Obviously that's the slider there. So anything else that comes out easily, there's a little circuit in there. Just check we're still recording, yeah. There we go. Always nice to have a couple of LEDs. Holding this together. It's a pretty complicated looking lump of plastic. Might come back to that later rather than worry about it just now, but there's clearly another bit of circuitry in there that looks like it will pop out quite easily. And I'm always after plastic gear wheels, so they look useful. Ah, there we go. Oh, lovely. Little screw there, plastic screw wheel. Okay, so say, any plastic gear wheels always gratefully received. And that screw will be brilliant. And another little electric motor. It's full of them. And that looks like that's what's stopping that coming all the way out. Yeah. Don't know if that was in camera shot then, sorry. But yeah, little motor there, little bit of circuitry. Bit of lubrication. Oh, I love that. That's going to be brilliant. Right, Ran out of memory on my camera then. Not quite sure how far through I'd got before it decided to stop recording. So quick recap, loads and loads of handy little bits, plastic gearing and that out of the CD tray. Looking in here, that looks like a handy, I think you'd call it a toroid. That will be handy for some other projects. Just finished taking this apart. I think I've got something like 3 or 4 or more motors already. How are we doing? Should have used an electric screwdriver, I think. Looks like it's a push fit connector there. Can't seem to move it. Alright, that's good. So I'm going to pull out. No, so okay, so that's our power supply, and as I say, it looks like a toroid there that I can use for something totally different. Put that to one side. I'm surprised that hasn't just popped out. Okay, I'm going to move now. Just holding it together. That screw. That's better. Very fancy display, no use to me whatsoever. A few push buttons. Good few of them. The old capacitor. That's an infrared sensor. It's a, I assume, variable resistor or potentiometer, if I'm lucky, because that's actually the sort of thing I'm looking for. So loads of little push buttons, look like they're here, just simple make buttons. So what's holding you? Still a bit of plastic there. I see. There we go. So, off we got here. A few more capacitors that might be useful. I suppose you call those trimming pots, or at least that's what you used to call them. I should think those are voltage regulators. Yep. So they'll be of some use. At least they're discrete components that I can actually unsolder and use. Nearly finished. This is the cassette unit. So clearly we've got electric motor there. No such luck, you'd have thought 2 screws and it might just pop out. Still might. As I say, I'm not trying to repair this, so I'll just rip that off. Okay, what have I got here that I'll like? A few gear wheels, a few pulleys, a few little contacts, spring contacts that might be useful, and an electric motor. I honestly don't think I'm going to do much with that plastic. There's a couple of springs there. All the push buttons are falling out, so I'm playing with it. They're all destined for the bin, I think. There's a couple of pulleys there, or pulleys, cogs. They're the ones that actually operate the cassette flap, but they might be useful for something else. Yeah, I won't throw those away, I might save them. So, quick summary, quite a few electric motors, a couple of circuit boards, and the power supply. And that toroid. I reckon that's it. So quite a bit of that's going in the bin, but there's quite a few bits that I'll be able to salvage. Almost missed that little treasure out of the CD tray. Got a little magnet in there. Magnets are always handy as well. Right, that's the music centre stripped down. Quick summary of what's useful, or at least what I think might be useful. Got 1, 2, 3 circuit boards. That shouldn't be on there. With a few discrete components on them. Certainly plenty of capacitors. That little circuit board, couple of LEDs on it. A trimmer of some sort there. Hopefully it's a variable resistor that I can use, but certainly it's something. Loads of little push switches. That's a infrared detector from the remote control. What else have we got? Quite a few plastic gear wheels or cogs. A couple of electric motors there. A nice little magnet. That's the coil from the power unit. I personally probably won't be using it as a coil, although I could always strip it down and take all the wire out of it for some sort of wiring job. In fact, I believe that's called a toroid, and I've seen a couple of little projects on YouTube that I can use that for. That's the drive unit out of the CD player. So we've got a couple of gears there, a couple of motors, a couple more motors there. I guess they're probably stepper motors. They're not necessarily. That one's just got two contacts on it, so it looks like a straightforward DC motor. And that one too has just got two contacts on it, so they might be ordinary DC motors that I can use if I'm lucky. If not, they're stepper motors, and that just gets a little bit more complicated. Still usable, but a bit more complicated. And that's the double cassette unit that was in it. Again, quite a few little gear wheels or cogs. A couple of pulleys on the back connected together by rubber bands or rubber belts. Another motor. That one's got several wires going to it, so again, I like to hope that they're just ordinary DC, but it might be a stepper motor. And that's about it. So we'll just say that again. 3 main circuit boards that have got various useful bits on them. A couple of little tiddly bits, circuit boards. That appears to have a not quite sure, could be a couple of LEDs, light receiver, can't think what we call it now. One transmits to the other and checks whether there's anything in between them. I'm not sure, that looks slightly different to me, that might be something totally different. But certainly another little motor. HB1 4V, so is that 14 volts? H3B 14 volts? No idea. That's the fun of taking it apart. You can find out if any of it's any good later. The only other thing I've got is a box full there of screws, power cord and a couple of bits of metal. Everything else I'm throwing in the bin. That's it. Okay, that wasn't quite it. Obviously on this CD drive unit, that'll be a laser LED in there. So anybody who's playing around with this, obviously you need to take care if it's a laser. But that's probably useful for something as well. But I just thought I'd better add in that word of caution. Be careful with lasers.